I'm going to turn this over to Kate because what she's come up with, I think, could be pretty spectacular for us. Kate, you want to talk about Lower Pioneer Valley?
Yeah, let me pull up the information here. I'm having computer troubles since I'm sitting at the soccer practice field. So I don't have everything quite organized the way I want it. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah,
We
very
can.
good right now.
Okay. You can hear me all right? All right. So I talked with the folks at Pioneer Valley Planning Commission on the suggestion of Aaron Vega. And they thought, and I think this is a great idea, that a local technical assistance grant would help us a lot.
Yep.
And it's called a grant, but it's not actually really a grant. We wouldn't have to administer anything. It gives a certain amount of their time to do some work on our behalf. They really were excited about what we were doing. The wrinkle is that most of their funds have really been expended for this fiscal year through June 30th, but they were so excited about this, they were able to find a few hours, and they may have more. The idea that they came up with.
Dave's on his way. He should be here in a second, and he was going to call Harry.
Great.
So we're going to get everybody.
Terrific. The idea that they had, which I think is a great one, is that they could spend their professional research expertise time looking up for us and really compiling a bunch of basically what they call the precedent review. They could collect case studies for us of municipal reservoirs that have been adapted for passive recreation uses, looking both at how that's been done, where it's been done well and poorly. They could consider things like environmental justice. They could consider things like, obviously, drinking water supply, and be able to present to us some information in a form. We could help figure out what form would be useful that would give us the kind of background to say, like, here are some great things that could be done. Here's how it's been done well. Here's how we could pull it off. So if we get Aaron Vega to write a letter to them, they can get started with that research. We might, I don't know if we want to have maybe a subgroup of us get together and come up with some real specifics about what we would want to ask them. If we want to be the more specific we can be, the more helpful they can be. But the idea that they could do a lot of that leg real benefit to us, and they can get at least some of them, fill out the 15 hours at the beginning of the next fiscal year if they can't allocate the money this year.
Kate, this is Marlene. I used to work there. Who are you talking to? And I'd be happy to be on a subcommittee trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I talked to Catherine and Corinne.
Okay.
And they were both really, really excited about this project. So I think, you know, they're ready to jump on it if we want them to do it. I think we just need to say officially, I didn't feel like I could go ahead and say yes on my own. If the
Is this the city? Would this be the city of Holyoke asking
committee as a whole wants to do it? We just need to have somebody in a position to ask them. And Aaron Vega, could, you know, since I'm on the planning board, I could get Aaron to ask, but I'm sure there are other people we could have asked, but it's a simple ask. It's basically, you know, and he knows about this already because he's the one who suggested it. It's him writing them a letter.
Okay.
Well, I mean, we could simply vote on it now to ask, and either Aaron could ask or Sue Ellen could ask, either way.
Well, it ought to come on some sort of official stationery. So I would think if Aaron would do it, so he would at least have.
Yeah, I would think it would need to be the city. So yeah.
But the other thing that I think we would definitely want to say in this letter is that the water department wants to retain Whiting Street Reservoir as an offline water supply for the city.
Yep.
So
Yeah,
anything we look into and anything that they would come up with in the way of use would have to be a completely non-polluting and appropriate use for what could be a city water supply.
Yeah,
I mean, I
they
think
were
the
pretty-
idea of like a precedent review, so we would lay out the things like that, Sue Ellen, that we want to make sure are the precedent that we are looking for them to review. So, yes, but we should make sure we're clear on that.
Yeah, I think they were clear on that, but it's true that we'll need to make sure that happens. I think the first step, if we can get, Aaron can even write a sort of general letter, and then we as the committee come up with exactly what we're asking them. But they're ready to go.
Okay, how does everybody feel about this?
I'm
I
good.
think it's a great idea.
I think it's great, but should we run this by the water department so they're not like
Blindsided.
caught off guard? Yeah.
Well, again, that's one of the reasons why I think even a preliminary ask has got to be very clear about water use.
Oh, I agree 100%, but I think the water department should at least know what we're doing as a committee.
Yeah. I
Courtesy.
agree. Yeah, because I mean, it's they own it.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe the city council also.
Yeah.
Well, you know, I agree with Terry, and yet this committee is supposed to be investigating these things. We don't have the power to do any of these things. And what we are going to be doing at the end of our research is to make recommendations. The water department, supposedly John Manzies, is assigned to our group.
Mm-hmm.
And I am still waiting for him to make the first meeting.
Yep, I know.
So here's my proposal. Can we go ahead and ask Aaron to write the letter, and then we could maybe have a subcommittee meeting, invite John Manzi to that, and just
And set up the
At
parameters
that
for the
point-
study.
since we're only making recommendations, I can't imagine they're going to say no to some research,
Right.
but they could help set up they could help give us input on what we're asking for. So if that sounds okay with everybody, maybe Marlene and I, and is there anybody else who wants to help come up with what we're asking for?
I'd
think we
like to
trust
sit
you
in
guys.
if I can.
You would?
Yeah, I really would.
Okay, let's do it.
Good.
All right, so what we're gonna do, if I have this straight, before we take a vote on this, is we're going to ask Aaron to write the letter just to get the ball rolling. We're going to be very careful about setting up a committee meeting before any research is started, to set up the parameters for that research. And we're going to make sure that Mr. Manzi and perhaps Dave Conti are both notified so they know what's going on. Will that do it, Terry?
I mean,
Okay.
because if I was a Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, I would probably want to know why the water department wasn't not involved, but at least, sanctioning it. So, yeah. Yeah, I'm fine.
And then once we set up the parameters that we're looking for, the committee will send them out to all members. We'll add anything to it that we think of, get it back to them within, say, 24 hours. And then Kate can, as chair of this subcommittee, forward this to the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission Authority, whoever they are.
Sure.
Is that
My
got it?
my only other suggestion might be, I found Catherine and Corinne to be so helpful in terms of thinking about the possibilities of what we could do that I hadn't even anticipated that we could ask them to do. That at some point in that process, I'd like to go before necessarily to think to ask for, so I'd get their input too.
Well, I think we have to set up what we are really interested in
Yes.
and get their input on how to go about getting it, whether there's anything else that's important, and so on. I mean, we have to give them some guidelines, but I agree with
Absolutely.
you. You don't stop a researcher in their tracks.
Hey, friends, I've been in for a while, but I was trying to bring Harry along, but he's having too much trouble, so I'll fill him in. Can you give me 2 seconds of back what happened? Don't go too heavy, just give me a second. I know I've missed some important stuff and it means something.
Oh, yeah, Dave. So I talked with a couple people at the Pioneer Valley Planning Commission, and they've been able to figure out, even though they'd allocated all their research, local technical assistance research money for this year, they did find some extra time because they were really excited about our project.
Yeah.
And we can ask them to do some research on our behalf, essentially probably compiling a bunch of case studies of ways that municipal reservoirs have been adapted successfully for passive recreational use, so that we have a bunch of case studies we can look to.
Okay. And where did you take it from there?
Then
You're gonna-
we're talking about how we're going to do that process.
Okay, so you're gonna write a letter, somewhere.
Aaron Vega can ask them
Okay,
to get the process started, and then we can go.
okay.
So Kate, it would not be necessarily to help us develop our report.
Well, we could ask them for some deliverables. I don't think, because the maximum they can do is 15 hours, I actually don't think it's worth our asking them to write the report. I don't think that's necessarily a good use of their time, but they could do the research. And if we decided we had a deliverable, like we wanted a slideshow that showed what the case studies were, or, like some way that they could put that in a format for us that then we could use for the city council, they could also do that too, which in a way is helping us with the report.
Yep, that sounds fine.
Yep, I think that sounds good.
One
Yeah,
of the things,
Their precedent research would be helpful.
the other point here is that, and you may have all missed it, Kate said that their fiscal year ends June 30th, and they found some time to do this before the end of that fiscal year. Maybe by the end of the fiscal year, the beginning of their next year, we'll have some further ideas about help we need specifically, and can go back to them with our handout again.
Okay. Well, I like the idea that their year is ending quickly so that we don't have to wait for them for 2 years to get their study done.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
I do too.
Been there, done that.
I've been there, done that with them too.
Right.
I admire them and I like them, but there's, that's good timeline.
Okay, that'll be a good thing for the committee to remember when they set up those parameters. And on that cheerful note, Kip, would you like to introduce Mr. Murphy?
You're on mute, Kip.
I'll call them.
So I'm happy to introduce Patrick. I don't know him well. I've run into him a few times. Patrick is the general manager up at Wycoff Country Club. And as we all know, they're a direct abutter to the Whiting Street Reservoir. And, there is clearly potential for there to be some cooperation between the two property owners. I think can benefit both. And, as a way of introduction, Patrick, what we have been doing is meeting as a committee with other abutters and stakeholders to the property and having really kind of informal conversations about, what you see up there, how the reservoir and the country club complement each other and might be able to expand upon those relationships in ways that are beneficial to both parties. And so, thank you for taking the time to come and join us. And, I guess I would just probably ask for you to, introduce yourself, talk about, the club and the reservoir and your perspective on things. I know that one of the things you and I talked about, an apparent issue with the reservoir is accessibility related to parking. And, you guys have a big parking lot.
Yep.
And so I don't, practically, I don't know how that could work with golfers going down fairways and trying to get people across. But so that said, if so that's my introduction, and
Good luck.
there you go, Patrick.
Sure. Yeah, no, thank you for having me. I followed you guys, your committee, for a while now, and our ownership group is very interested in what you guys are doing because, as a direct abutter, we're in this together. You guys are carrying the load right now, and we appreciate that. And we think, that our property can only be enhanced by the improvements and some of the things you're talking about at the reservoir. I'm a Springfield guy, and I didn't know anything about the reservoir. And, I first came up to work at Wycoff last year and noticed this beautiful body of water, and took a few walks around, and I just said that this is such a great place, and it's kind of a hidden gem in the city. And so I personally think it's fantastic what you guys are doing. And our ownership group is committed to the property as a golf course, and they're committed to the property as a restaurant and banquet facility. And they really are committed to being a good partner in the city of Holyoke with everybody. So we look forward to working with you guys in any way we can to help our property and yours at the same time.
Okay, it sounds like you are looking for questions.
Sure, yes, if you have any.
Let me start with one.
Sure.
Have you thought at all about ways that we could work together if the city decides to do more at the reservoir than is permanently or presently going on?
Yeah, I think you got the biggest problem that I can see is the parking aspect of it. I think a lot of people are parking illegally on 141, and they're parking in our parking lot, which is fine to an extent. But it does create a little bit of a hazard if they really don't know what they're doing and how to properly walk across the fairway. We don't want anybody getting hit by a ball while they're walking across. So I think there could be something that we work together to try to mitigate that issue for you. But we're interested, and we're willing to listen to any and all proposals and any ideas you might have for us. We purchased the property in December of 2019, so we've been here a short 16, but a very interesting 16 months. So we're looking forward to being good neighbors.
Jeff, Kip, Marlene?
Patrick, do you have a kind of sense of what you're talking about in terms of what kind of volume of people are parking there? It might help us at some point to know what the traffic, the volume of the traffic problem.
Yeah, it would be tough to quantify it, honestly. But I would say, it's at least, I would say 10 to 15 people a day, at least, parking in our lot, walking across the fairway at given times. The good news is a lot of times it's very early in the morning when golfers aren't necessarily out and are not necessarily on that portion of the course where people are walking to get to the reservoir. So I see it. I notice it a lot more in the wintertime, to be honest with you, because in the summertime with golfers and cars and stuff, it's not as readily noticeable than it is in times when we're not open for golf. And I can notice that there's, 4 or 6 cars parked in a certain part of the parking lot that, kind of tells me that they're going to the reservoir.
Would it be advantageous to create a better way for people to get from one property to the other, or would you not want that to happen? I mean, I don't know
Sure.
what the reservoir wants, but
Yeah, no, I think I'd be open to any suggestions or ideas that could come about. I mean, we're not against anything at all as of right now that I know of. So.
Wait till we get done with you.
So,
I would ask a question. You have, for a long time, a lot of people would go past the portico of the building of the banquet hall and park on the pro shop side in the bag
Yep.
room. Are you
Yep.
still doing that?
So as of right now, we are only having parking back there for handicap access. The parking back there is a little more limited, and the cart storage and the new ownership group and I just don't feel it's necessarily a good idea for people to be parking back there unless they really need to have a closer spot to the pro shop to come in. So we've this year decided that it's just handicap parking only back
Great.
there.
That's real smart.
Yeah.
But my question would be next is, hopefully everything's going to get real good for you and the banquets will start again.
Correct.
And let's dream. You got a big parking lot. You got a big piece of it over by the pond.
Yes.
You ever see you using all that?
I think on some occasions and in a perfect world, yeah, I'd like to see us using it a lot more than we did last year for sure.
Well, forget that. Yeah. On your best moment, you think you will?
Wouldn't we all like to forget that?
Yes, absolutely. I think in our best moments, yeah, we would have it filled up, but I think there's a lot of time that there's space there that could be provided for other situations, for sure.
Yeah. And what used to be the 8th hole, because they always get changed, I think it's now 17.
Yes.
I remember playing in a course many times that had a beautiful walking bridge over a short fairway where that neck is,
Mhm.
Beautiful bridge, both for the golf course, it looked great, and for the attraction of the walkers.
Yep.
Okay. Thanks for
Sure.
coming.
No, my pleasure. Anytime.
Pat,
Yes.
what about water from the course's perspective? Is there any interest in trying to use the reservoir as a source of water for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely something we would be open to. We use the small pond in the front to use for water for the course, and it's not sustainable for where we would like the golf course to go. I think we need some more water. And with the reservoir being there, I think, it's definitely a possibility. Logistically, it could be an interesting situation getting it from us to you and go from there. But it would definitely be something we would be very interested in talking about for sure.
I'm always looking for the quid pro quo,
Yes, no, absolutely.
That might be one.
Yeah.
Well, and there's a lot of work that got done on it before, because we had a great interest at the ski area, because not only did we pay for all the water, we also gave it back for free. And there was interest in helping us out with that, as long as we provided the infrastructure to push it up to our ponds. Okay.
Right. Yeah, we would definitely be interested in, because it is a need of ours. It's something we're actively looking at all the time.
Sure.
So yeah, no, that could work for both of us.
One of the interesting things that we heard when Dave Conti from the water department came and spoke with us was, and I don't remember the exact number, but how many gallons per day were flowing out of that reservoir that's not being used in any way at all. And it's like, whoa, and I want to say it was, it was either 1.2 million gallons. I don't think it was 12 million, but it was a big number. So, that's my thinking. It's like, wouldn't it be better to use that water than?
Absolutely.
But he would have to answer that question again for us, because with that proposed and not proposed, but soon to come giant spillway at a higher elevation, that might be different.
it might be, but you know, it's like once the bathtub gets full, it's just
Still gotta go over.
overflowing.
That's
Same
right.
as keeps going over there. So, and I remember, you know, it was a huge recharge daily. I can't remember the number.
Yeah, I
mean,
hear you. I
it
remember.
was a huge number of how much water flowed into that reservoir every day and then flowed out every day. So I do think that that might be, you know, one of the things we're charged with, Patrick, is trying to find some sources of revenue to help
Yep.
pay for some of this stuff. And, you know, so maybe there's a good deal to be made on water that generates little revenue and can help you guys out and help
Absolutely.
the
Yes,
reservoir.
no, we would definitely be interested in that conversation for sure. And, you know, like I said, we want to be the best neighbor we can be because it is such a beautiful space and a real hidden gem in the city.
Marlene?
Well, I have a question for Patrick. Patrick, some of the other folks that we talked to had some issues with, like after hours, folks coming, you know, uncontrolled access at night. Have you had issues with that?
Knock on wood, in my year and a half working here, we have not. You know, I have not seen a lot of activity from our property over to the reservoir. And our camera system is very active and very good. And we have a great view of our parking lot. And I watch it all the time. And I don't see a lot of activity from our side. I know Mr. Sewer was talking about he had a lot of activity on his, but from my perspective and our perspective from Wycoff Country Club, we don't see much at all.
And then a related question, do you have conversations with the adjacent landowners yourself? I mean, you know, would you see the need to have, you know, conversations on an annual basis or something with a group that's kind of working together?
Oh, we'd definitely be open to it. I think as a community and as a group around here, you know, we can accomplish a lot more if we're all together rather than everybody trying to do their own little piece. You know, if we group up, team up resources and the great minds that are around here, I think we could really accomplish something good.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
So you don't, at this point, have any traffic issues particularly?
No, we do not. Nope. Nope.
Okay, and you do plan to reopen the banquet facilities?
Oh, we're open now. The banquet facility is open now. We're allowed to have 100 people inside for a function. So we've started that, and we're hoping some of the other regulations open up a little more, and we can get more people here and really, you know, try to start chopping away at the issues from last year.
Is that 50%, Patrick?
What's that?
The 100 open for 100, is that 50% capacity?
No. So the 100 people is the limit from the state. Our capacity in the banquet hall is 455.
Wow.
So, but the max you can have, no matter how big of a building it is 100 people inside.
I see. Thank you.
Sure.
Hey, Patrick,
Yes.
I'm Terry from Park and Rec, so I have a way different question. Do
Sure.
you have to limit the number of people on the golf course
We do not.
at all? Okay,
No.
good. So can
Yeah.
you hold tournaments?
We can hold tournaments. Yes.
Hmm.
Yes.
Good.
Yeah.
Good, because at ball fields, we're limited to 150 people, which is okay. And adult amateur sports aren't recommended to have any spectators.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's a recommendation, but it makes it very hard.
Yes. So our course could hold 144 golfers at one time would be the absolute max.
Mhm.
But on any given basis, I mean, we only have 50 carts, so that would only equate to 100 people out there at one time. So that's kind of background for you. We'd love to have a tournament if you want to have one.
Maybe.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, I do well remember some events in my early planning days that I ran up there,
Yeah.
had anywhere from 300 to 350 people.
Yes.
One where we hit the limit.
Well, hopefully we can get back there soon.
Well, it was
Hope so.
very, very nice for the city.
Yes.
So I ran out for a sec, but are there, so if you already answered this, I'm sorry, but are there any other future things that you are thinking of tangentially with the golf course, or future planning or anything like that? That we should
No, I
know
mean,
about?
our plans are to keep it as is, and just make, the minor improvements that have kind of been put by the wayside in the past few years, and get back to, doing some deferred maintenance and clearing up some of the issues on the course and in the clubhouse, and getting it back to being a very respectable golf course and banquet and restaurant facility.
Great.
So far, so good, Patrick, what I saw there last year.
Yeah, we made a lot of improvements in year one, and we're hoping to continue that and really get it back to where it should be, is a real crown jewel in the Western Mass golf area, and really get the banquet hall back to being somewhere where you can have functions and be proud to have something here.
Pat, let me get back to your saying that you thought group activities, group meetings would be a good thing. If, because one of our recommendations to the city government
Mhm.
probably is going to be that some sort of group for the abutters and neighbors be set up. What kinds of things do you think would be the most important for them to talk about?
I think it's important to get everybody in a room and really talk about issues they're having, because a lot of times, one neighbor is going to have the same issue as another, and one may be trying to rectify the situation one way, and one may be trying to rectify it a completely different way, and it may be counterproductive. And I think just getting everybody in a room and talking about what the issues are, and coming up with ways to work together to fix that could really benefit everybody.
Can you think of any particular issues?
Well, I know that, from the last meeting, Mr. Seward was talking about, some of the policing issues and some of the traffic coming in and out of there at night. I think that's something that together as a group, we could get together and try to figure out the best way to handle that. And go from there.
Okay. Anybody else want to jump in here? Well, Pat, it's really nice to have you with us,
Yes,
and
absolutely.
would certainly love to have you as a listener to any of our meetings.
I listen to them all.
Great.
Very good.
One thing we do have to remember, and I can use the jog to my memory, is to ask people if they have any questions at the end of meetings. So let me stick you with that job.
Okay.
If you are watching us and there's something that comes up that you think you have a question on, please don't hesitate.
Fantastic. I will. Thank you. Yes.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us tonight.
No, anytime you'd like to speak to us, I'd be glad to come on. I'm really interested in what you guys are doing, and I think it could really benefit both the city and our property. So we are all for it, and anything we can do to help, please don't hesitate to reach out.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Pat.
Thank you.
Pat.
Have a
Thanks
good
for
night.
waiting. Thanks for waiting till we got organized too.
Oh, no problem at all. No problem at all. Thank
Yes,
you.
I am deeply grateful. I don't know what I did wrong, but it was something.
It's okay.
Well, we found you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay. One other thing that I did want to talk about is that I will reset up the April 20th meeting. Jeff has the program for that meeting. And I want to make sure that we don't have the same kind of difficulties we had tonight. So I will double check all of that and get that meeting notice ready and out over the coming weekend. And if there's anything along those lines that anybody wants me to do, give me a yell. We've also had a very, very kind offer from Mr. Comeau, who does tours of downtown Holyoke and tours around the reservoir. And the weather is getting beautiful. I wonder if it's time to think about maybe taking him up on his offer. And for those who are able to walk around the reservoir, setting that tour up. And what are your thoughts?
I thought that was a great offer, and I would be pleased to participate or help do anything, Sue Ellen, to help make that happen. I think it'd be great.
Well, if
Yes.
you'd like to take that on and set it up, the first thing we ought to do is look for a date and go from there. How does everybody else feel about that?
Well, I think that we'd look real bad if somebody offered us a tour of the
Yeah.
thing we're experts
You
on and we
think?
didn't go there.
You think so? Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
I
we don't
do.
need to see it.
I do. We're
What
all,
do we need to go there for?
I know where that place is, sure.
Yeah, I've been there once.
Right. So, yeah, I think we have to do.
It seems like we could also use a regular meeting time if they're not all filled up with guests, so.
Yeah.
Well, they're not yet. We certainly have guests at our next meeting. And somewhere toward the end of June, we'll probably want to have the people from Lower Pioneer Valley come in and talk to us about what they've found.
Oh, that's good.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes.
although I'm not sure I would block that out yet. I don't know. I haven't talked to them about what their schedule is for having something to be back to us, so. I'll let you know as soon as I
Okay.
know anything.
Okay, well, we do also have to think about spending some time, and I had hoped we could do it in May, just talking about what we found so far, the kinds of things we'd like to present at public meetings, and thinking about possibly a series of 2 or 3 public meetings to set up early summer, and how we want to handle them. And I was hoping that we would be done with guests in time to talk about that, spend the May, maybe the first meeting in June, talking about those things. And how does everybody feel about that?
That makes sense.
Yeah, I
You know, I
like that
think-
schedule.
Yeah, we have, we need to do an initial public meeting. Sorry, the sun's coming in, west window.
Right.
To get input from people on things that they're thinking about. And then we might want to, do something later on after we've thought through some recommendations or after we've heard from the research on precedent kind of settings. So I can see 2 different purposes or
Between,
2 different sets of public meetings. So,
Right.
Yeah, I
I
mean-
guess timing wise, I would ask, for Kate and for Marlene and Sue Ellen, who are going to go talk to the Valley Planning Council, do you think you will have a chance to talk to them before our next meeting?
I would hope so. The question
Yeah,
is
we should
whether
be
or
able to
not
do that.
Aaron can get a letter off.
It would just be nice to, understand what you guys whipped up. Because I think because it might have some bearing on how we proceed. So it seems like if we could talk, again, next week's a pretty big discussion with, since we have the Appalachian Trail Club, we won't have the Park Service, but it sounds like it's the same issue.
Right.
And we'll have
That-
Josh, and I haven't heard back from Markel yet from the Friends, but it sounds like they all work together. So that that conversation, and we all ought to think about how we think the trail relates to what we want to do. You know, we haven't discussed that among ourselves at all. So I don't know what.
Yeah, I mean, it's such a great opportunity to think about how the reservoir could be, you know, sort of a Holyoke anchor to a piece of that trail here. And so I think that just is a potentially an amazing opportunity to think about that. So I think, you know, I like to hike. I've hiked some of the AT. So anyway, I think this is just so cool. So I think trying to figure out how to, you know, how that could be this could be a gem for Holyoke to be part of that piece. So, I mean, it's a lot to consider for us.
Well, this is exactly why I wanted to hold the meetings immediately, at least 2 of them, maybe 3, immediately after our next one, for us just to talk in-house, as it were, about what we found so far, what we think, or what directions we want to go, and what sort of things should be presented at a public meeting, other than just tell us how you think.
Yep.
Because I
Because
think
that will be the world's longest public meeting if we don't do that by
Yes,
just going in and saying, what are you thinking?
yes, go would. Yes. Do we have a time frame here when we want to wrap this up?
think judging from the meeting with the city's committee that was last week, they are thinking we'll have this wrapped up this fall.
Okay,
And I don't see any reason why we couldn't.
right.
Okay.
The big issue, as Jeff has pointed out more than once, is going to be writing something up at the end. And that could turn out to be a lengthy and possibly very difficult thing to do.
Mhm.
And so that'll be another thing that we'll want to talk about after the public's had its chance to get input into this whole project.
That's very well put.
And I haven't had detailed conversations with the folks for next week. I sent them the same, you know, so Ellen, you reached out to Miss Likely. I like her name.
Well,
What's her first name?
Bridget?
Bridget, yeah, Bridget. And so, and I assume you provided her the same information, and you also spoke with Josh, right? And so Josh is coming, correct?
you know, Josh is coming. I have to remind him, and I will be, well, I'll be reminding everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'm going to
I spoke with
that.
Bridget too. Yeah.
I'm going to
Okay.
do that with Mimi looking over my shoulder to make sure that there are no errors like I made tonight, because I must have done this. I can't imagine who else could have. So I will
No
take
worries.
full blame.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of
No worries.
It's
It just
it's
brings
easy to
technology.
it's very easy to open 2 windows in these things, and then you have basically can have 2 meetings, you know, going on. So that can happen.
Plus it made it more fun.
It
Right.
sounds like we have a lot of things that we want to have happen during our regular meeting time. So does it make sense to try to schedule this walking tour of the reservoir at some other time?
Probably.
I can walk and talk.
Makes 2 of us.
Well, I can't walk at all, so, you know, I
Yeah.
just,
Oh, yeah.
I'm okay getting to the garage from the back door, but that's about it. So walking the reservoir, which I've done a number of times, is not something that I can do anymore.
Okay, so then that means we won't have, so it won't be an official meeting of the group.
Do you want me to contact David and Robert and see if he's got some times?
Yeah.
available to do that and go see what he says about when he's available?
Yeah.
And
The only reason I suggested these times is because it seems like we're all able to make it,
Yeah.
that's all.
And of course, that simplifies things, knowing in advance.
Mhm.
Before we run off, Sue Ellen or Marlene, so I think I mentioned in an email, so next week when we have the guests, who I have talked to some, I could be late to the start of the next meeting. So,
Okay.
so you guys may have to introduce them and get things kicked off. I have my second vaccine appointment and I can't change that. So it's
No,
at
don't change
4.
that.
But
So I suspect I'll be rolling back in here just in time, but I might be.
I
a
got
little-
mine yesterday.
Way to go.
Well, I have heard of people being held up for hours. So
Right.
we'll just start and when you, and I'll watch for you to arrive.
Right. That's all. Just wanted to remind you that, and I'll watch the meeting later if that's,
Yeah, well, do remind me because I need all the help I can get. Anything that anybody else has? I know
we're
I
gonna-
sent an agenda out and I can't find it.
We're gonna meet
I-
we're gonna meet next week. We're not gonna skip a week.
We're gonna meet on the 20th.
The
Okay,
20th, 2 weeks.
yep. got it.
I'm sorry if I said next week.
Yeah, that's what got me. Okay.
And Kip, you have minutes for this, right?
Oh, was I supposed to do that? Been writing
Wait.
furiously.
I've scribbled too, Kip, if you need my
Oh,
scribbles.
God.
Me too. I scribbled too.
Nobody could read my writing. It would be,
Okay,
type it up, don't worry.
and I will look up my list and let the person know who's taking minutes at the next meeting.
Hey,
Dave,
No,
you?
It's me.
So
I'm-
one thing, go ahead, Dave, and then
No,
I had
I'm
a
just,
question.
I'm ready. I'm meeting. I'm the minutes next meeting.
Okay, great, thank you. Jeff?
Yeah, so one thing that we mentioned tonight as we were, I think Terry mentioned it, to reach out to the Holyoke Waterworks before we do anything. But originally we were supposed to, Dave is kind of we were supposed to have someone from the Holyoke Water Company on the commission. And it seems like it would be in their interest to pay attention to what's going on. It seems awkward for us to have to hold up things we're doing to wait for them if they're not playing along. So I just don't know what you guys know Dave Conti better than I do. And so I'm just curious, we don't want to hold things up. It seems like they would be very interested in what we're doing and would be
I would hope,
engaged.
that they watch these meetings because we can access them, but it's more just informative. So they're not taken aback if they see that the Pioneer Valley Commission is doing some study or investigation.
Yeah, right. I already had made a
That's
note
all.
that I already made a note when I heard that. And that I absolutely am going to call him tomorrow.
Great.
Because I'm disappointed. And we can't do all these things and then say, hey, we didn't know about that, even if they do. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I'll take care of that.
Right. They did, again, I'll just remind folks, they did have they had a slot on this group and they've
And
chosen
I-
not to.
I intend to remind
They
them.
filled, let me tell you, they filled the slot, or the slot was filled,
Yeah.
but we have not had the participation.
Right.
On the other hand, if you will remember back to that first meeting, when Dave Conti spoke to us, he was very positive about the fact that this was a water supply for the city of Holyoke in reserve.
Yep.
And would continue to be so. Period, the end.
Right.
Yes.
So, and we also have to remember that anything that we do is a recommendation. And it will be the city council that will be acting on those recommendations, and they can only do that with the complete agreement of the Holyoke Water Department. There's no other way they can do it.
Yep.
So while I would certainly think that as we start
Who's the owner?
we start writing proposals, getting ideas in place, we'll send them along to the water department to make sure that they're up on everything that we've thought about or looked into. And that they know that we are always looking for their input. But I don't see what else we can do. It's the old story. You can lead a horse to water.
Oh, I fully agree. And I don't expect us to go further. I just meant just let them know, just make sure they know that's it. You don't want to start a little feud.
You know, again, we have to remember to do that constantly.
Yeah.
And I do
Yep,
send the
agreed.
minutes and the meeting notices to the water department.
If unless you don't want me to, I'll just check in with them.
Yeah, that's all.
I think that's great.
And I think Dave, when you do, I think what we're asking for from the Pioneer Valley Planning is not going to be any recommendations. It's not going to say in any way like, oh, this is
No.
what should be done. It's
No,
simply
no.
more information.
Yeah,
Yeah,
we
we're just
work
Best
together a long
practices,
time. so
precedent.
I'll just give them a call, meet them, and we'll just talk for a little bit.
And it's certainly going to be
Thank you.
interesting to find out what other communities have been able to do while maintaining water quality.
Mhm.
That's a big plus if we can get that kind of
Oh, yeah.
information. So,
Okay.
anything else for tonight?
I'm all set. Kate, let us know when we can help.
Yeah, I'll try to get some emails out to Aaron and then to the both of you tomorrow.
Okay.
And just a
Okay.
reminder that I'm sure everyone here probably knows that tonight is the East Hampton Planning Board meeting when they're discussing the 5 lots that are on Reservation Road. I think it started about 13 minutes ago.
Okay, now, are any of our listeners, the public who are attending this meeting, does anybody have a question that you'd like asked or a suggestion that we could use at this point?
Sue, I don't think we have anybody left who's
Okay,
not on the committee.
there being no one, if there is nothing else to be brought before the committee tonight, I will entertain a motion
So
for,
move.
Second,
so much for that. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.